VikesNow, we are on February 9th. This is my mother's birthday for anybody that cares. We are, less than 5 weeks away from free agency. We're going to hit on Sunday. It's going to be a month until legal tampering begins. So we're going to talk about a topic that might tie into free agency, but this is the running back show. It is a very underrated Viking storyline. In fact, if Kirk Cousins and Danielle Hunter were under contract, this might be the top offseason talker. What are the Vikings going to do to fix the run game? Their problem is that they said they were going to do it last offseason, and then they didn't. In 2022, per rushing DVOA and efficiency metric, the Vikings ranked 27th. They went and signed Josh Oliver. They brought back Alexander Mattison as RB1, emphasized Ty Chandler down the stretch. Boom, they ranked 27th in DVOA in 2023. Some would argue they regressed. So what we're going to do in these next 15 minutes or so is chat about the solutions and how the Vikings can fix it. I'm here with Tyler Ireland, the producer of the show, Brevan Bane, who is now a mainstay of VikesNow. Tyler, how are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, Dustin. How are you doing?
Not bad. We're going to talk about running backs. Are you ready for that?
Heck yeah, man.
Brev, how are you, my man?
I'm good. Happy birthday to your lovely mother. Happy Friday to you both. Happy Friday to the viewers. Happy Super Bowl weekend. Kind of hard to believe we're already here. Football season.
Yeah, we're going to have a massive, won't be a literal hangover for me, but we're going to have a football hangover on Monday because, we're going to have to go, at that point, it'll be 7 months until the next meaningful football game. Oh, here we go. All right, so here is the deal. Brev, I'm going to start with you. The Vikings don't have a quantity problem whatsoever at running back. You would think they got to go get a new guy. Not really. They have Ty Chandler, Alexander Mattison, Kene Nwangu, Dwayne McBride, and Myles Gaskin under contract for 2024. So with that said, is there a universe that you would endorse or predict that the Vikings will run it back with the current fivesome of running backs?
I guess it's easy to say that I hope they don't. You signed Madison to be running back one after Dalvin's fall off, and I guess we had high hopes because he did show flashes in all his years before we gave him the call to be the running back one. But with Akers tearing his Achilles for the second time, I don't know how much you can trust that. He's a restricted free agent anyway. Kene Nwangwu hasn't shown the what we've wanted him as good as of a return as he is. We haven't seen the running back play out of him we wanted to see. Ty Chandler's very promising. He's very explosive. I think we got Myles Gaskin on the roster. So something's got to be added, whether it's free agency, like you alluded to, whether it's draft. It's kind of weird to be in this scenario because I know Tyler's a similar age to me, but I'm 24. So right as I started to understand what's going on with football, that's when Adrian came in and we very beautifully went into the Dalvin Cook era immediately after Adrian. So to be in this weird place with running backs I think it's new territory for fans my age.
Yeah, and it sucks because we have this custom style of living, almost like in real life when you get to a certain wage and you're like, all right, this is how I live my life. And then you have to slash it. You're like, oh God, I'm going to have to do something different. That's how we are. We had Hall of Fame play from Adrian, certainly. And then just, a step down, but still real fruitful Dalvin Cook years. This fivesome, Tyler, I guess Ty Chandler could be on the cusp of a true blue RB1 breakout. Dynasty managers would rejoice in fantasy football. But do you, sir, think that the Vikings could or should run it back with this fivesome?
I think you run it back for the most part. You just change who RB1 is. So you add maybe one guy, whether that be in the draft or free agency. But the Vikings have a ton of really interesting depth at that position, and I'm sort of curious to see how that unfolds because you have Madison, who for many years before this year was like a great RB2 behind Dalvin Cook. Ty Chandler, his pass blocking wasn't great, but he was probably our best running back just in terms of pure rushing ability. You have Dwayne McBride, who you drafted. You traded for Cam Akers. He's coming off that Achilles, but restricted free agency. I don't see why you don't bring him back. And then Kene, who's more of a special teamer, but just a total athlete, and the vision is kind of meh. But you have a ton of these guys who are going to be competing for like RB2, RB3, RB4, Myles Gaskin. Is one name I forgot there, but I'm just curious to see how that depth chart shakes out. And to your and Brev's point too, don't forget about Latavius Murray, who the Vikings had like right in between Peterson and Cook. We had
Yeah.
Latavius for that 1 year. He was really good. So it's just new territory for the Vikings. It's been a really long time since I hated the Vikings running back situation. I think the last time, I wasn't fond of the running backs was when Matt Asiata and Jerick McKinnon led our backfield. So I'm
Suspension
interested to
year.
see what they do, really.
Yeah, I remember that. That was 2013, I believe, when Adrian was suspended for the switch discipline thing. And yeah, that was, I remember thinking this. I mean, we talk ourselves into Asiata being cool because he could score 1 yard touchdowns, but I'm like, oh man, this is a fall from grace. The believe it or not, Brev, with Kevin O'Connell, right now, I don't trust the Vikings to fix this running back situation with the current group. I adore Kevin O'Connell, and I give him rave reviews as a head coach. But in turn, they already told us they were going to fix this, and they didn't. So right now, I'm in a you got to prove it to me. With that said, free agency would be a logical destination to fix this thing if they indeed believe they need new personnel. This running back class of free agency is deep. Saquon Barkley, J.K. Dobbins, Austin Eckler, Antonio Gibson, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Zach Moss, Tony Pollard, and DeAndre Swift. Those are some of the names, the big names that could be available. So the same style of question, either an endorsement or a prediction. What say you on free agency for these Vikings and this analytics-focused general manager?
Yeah, if you follow me on Twitter, you probably know that I'm pretty against spending big time assets, whether that's draft capital or a decent amount of money on running backs, just in the current NFL. But when you've got an offense like the Vikings have, again, Kirk being the question mark, but assume he comes back, you've got maybe the best receiving trio in the NFL, and Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, and one of the best tackle duos in the NFL with Darisaw O'Neal. Spending a decent amount of some sort of asset on a running back wouldn't be an awful idea. I don't know if they should go out and pay Saquon 11 or 12 mil per year, but I wouldn't mind spending a little something. Like if you can, I think Derrick Henry, I don't know how much he'd fit into the offense. I know his market value per that's Spot Track, however you pronounce it, is like 4 or 5 million. So, and I agree with your point. I don't know how much I trust
Mm-hmm.
this regime because aside from fixing it and not Kevin O'Connell, I have some reservations about his play calling in the red zone where you think you'd see your running back excel the most, but we didn't have a running back touchdown to what, week 8 or something, or Madison didn't score one until, did Madison score one at all?
No, 0 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
there's my point. Yeah, I don't know. I'd be fine with them spending a little something. I'd probably look more toward the draft to do it. Like if you can get a Jonathan Brooks or a Blake Corum in the second or third. But yeah, I think you're spot on with. I don't know if I trust them to do it. They brought in Josh Oliver. No matter what the structure, you paid him 21 mil over 3 to come in and be a run blocker, and he was a good run blocker, I guess. But your rushing offense declined. you traded for T.J. Hawkinson to be more in the passing game, but you traded for him to be versatile. And it hasn't worked to this point, what you've done around the running back room. So if they were to do something, since I have to trust them, since I'm sitting here watching them do it and I have no say, and they have no idea who I am, I'd rather look toward the draft instead of spending a ton of money right now.
Well, the good news for you, sir, is in about 4 minutes, we're going to chat about that very draft and these running backs. I think one of the problems or misnomers in the modern NFL, I'd say in the last decade, is we've become so pass happy and we watch these teams win Super Bowls with just schmucks at running back. It isn't that running the ball is suddenly unimportant. It's that you don't have to break the bank to find productive hodgepodges of committees. And I think that for some reason, the NFL community has arrived at the running backs don't matter there, bro. And it's like, no, that's not what this is. It's that you don't have to spend, 10% of your salary cap on one to win a Super Bowl. So those are two different thoughts that I think bleed into each other erroneously. Tyler, free agents, DeAndre Swift piques my curiosity because he just turned 25. He should be relatively affordable for a running back. We shall see what that contract would look like. That's probably the one I would spring for. What about you on a free agent running back solution?
I'll give you 4 free agent running backs, and they're all in that sort of second tier. None of them are like your Saquons or your Derrick Henrys. But I just don't think with the way the modern NFL is going that there's not going to be a lot of teams that are going to want to spend big at running backs. So there's a ton of value to be found somewhere, and I do think it's a strong free agent class for that position. But 4 guys I have in mind here. The first one is Zach Moss. The Colts extended Jonathan Taylor. He showed some really good flashes during the brief time where Taylor was hurt or just inactive. That's one guy I look at, and he could come in and help the Vikings run game. Another guy is Packers running back AJ Dillon. Just the build that guy has, the athleticism. He's only 25, almost 26 years old. It kind of fits within sort of the mold that Kwesi likes, where he likes to sign guys who are still relatively young. So I just don't see us signing a veteran, but you're looking at like a 25, 26-year-old running back. I could totally see the Vikings doing that. The next one here is J.K. Dobbins. Ton of injury concerns, but like the upside is there. And then the last one here, hold on, I'm trying to find it again on this list, is Devin Singletary, running back for, I think he was in Buffalo, went to Houston, still 26 years old. If they don't bring him back and they run with Dameon Pierce and just kind of draft a guy, he could be an option as well. So there's a ton of really interesting 25 to 26-year-old running backs that Kwesi could pounce on here. So, we'll see what happens, but I think you have to address the running back position in some capacity in free agency, because with the draft, especially if we trade up, you're not going to have necessarily the ability to draft, Forum or Brooks in the 2nd or 3rd round. So you would be searching for a late round running back again, and at that point it's more of a rotational guy than a true 20 carries a game starter. So yeah, I would look at this free agent class if I'm the Minnesota Vikings.
And a reminder that class will be available 4 weeks from Monday. So this is going to slap you in the face sooner than later. This isn't like, oh yeah, we'll worry about that later this spring. It's a right around the corner. Another interesting aspect of this for viewers to monitor is watch the Super Bowl. If the 49ers win the damn thing and Christian McCaffrey has 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, this free agent market could be a little bit more sought after if the new formula, revised formula, is, hey, you can win a Super Bowl with the best running back in the sport. Maybe there is a general manager, not necessarily this one, but maybe a general manager says, you know what, I'm going to go spend on Josh Jacobs, and that could reduce what's available to the Vikings. I think we kind of assume that Kwesi won't break the bank on a Saquon. It doesn't feel like what a Moneyball guy would do. All right, we promised the draft. Brev, we're here. By my estimation, I'm probably going to miss one. Jonathan Brooks from Texas, Blake Corum of Michigan, Trey Benson, Florida State, Travion Henderson, Ohio State, Bucky Irving, Oregon, and then 20-year-old Braylon Allen from Wisconsin. Is it one of those guys, since you said the draft might be your spot for the Vikings, or do you have an unsung guy?
No, you named him. I like that Trey Benson. The injury history is pretty bad, but
Kwesi didn't care about that.
yeah, it doesn't matter. We'll just hope for the best going forward. No, Trey Benson, I think, would be my guy. Just the explosiveness that he would have to add another element to this offense that already has the best wide receiver in the world. Thinking about a 4-headed monster then of the aforementioned Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, and then to add Benson onto that. Just another thing that NFL defenses would have to respect. It'd give Kirk or rookie QB to be named that extra weapon to have in his development or in Kirk's final push for a Super Bowl. But yeah, I think Benson would be my guy. I really wouldn't be mad at any of the top 3 of Benson, Brooks, or Corum, but Benson would be the one that I'd want to go with.
And these gentlemen should be available in round 2, unless we have a funky combine. and a draft hype machine that talks them into round one. That's the juicy part. The Vikings actually have a second rounder this year. Last year, that was spent on a deal for Hawkinson. The other part, in case I forget, before we get to Tyler on his draft outlook for running backs, is that there'll be a lot of casual fans that'll be like, well, they're probably just going to cut Madison and move on. They could do that, but there is no financial incentive whatsoever to drop Alexander Madison. You don't save anything. If they did it, I think it was like, in the
600,000.
Yeah, 600,000. So he could indeed be a roster cup casualty, which we'll do oodles of shows about in August. But it's not like one of those ones with Harrison Smith where it's just money waiting to be plucked. So keep that in mind. Madison on the roster financially feels like a no-brainer. All right, what about these rookies, Tyler? I'm going to guess one or two interest you.
Yeah. One that interests me is the offensive MVP from the East-West Shrine Bowl, Frank Gore Jr.
He's not too short.
Let's get Frank Gore's son in purple and gold here. I mean, he rushed for a game high 87 yards on 6 carries, 49 of which came in his scoring sprint to the end zone on the game's first touchdown. He showed a lot of elusiveness. I'm not sure if he's the same bruiser as his father was, but I think you have a really solid running back there. And, there's something to be said about sons of former NFL players doing well in the NFL. Different position, but look at Antoine Winfield Jr. A lot of Vikings fans wanted him when he was coming out of the draft. And now he's balling for Tampa Bay, and I'm jealous. Marvin Harrison Jr. is, a generational wide receiver prospect, son of Marvin Harrison. So why not get Frank Gore Jr. in day 3 of the draft and, hope that he is the next Frank Gore? Wouldn't that be something?
If he's anything like that, he could be our running back for the next 20 years.
Oh, yeah. Dude, if he's got those same genes, then he's going to be our running back until 2040. So I am all for having the same running back average 4 yards a carry for the next 15 years or so.
It'll probably start out the way that these good running backs do, about 5 yards per carry, and then slowly kind of regress. Yeah, I should, during the downtime of the offseason, which is like June, July, I should go through and look at all these bloodline guys, because I swear to God, all of them turn out, especially the cornerbacks, turn out to be at least decent and usually good. Joey Porter, Asante Samuel, Antoine Winfield. Anytime you see son of former player, you're like, oh, he's going to be good. Now we'll see if this applies to the late rounders, because Ed McCaffrey's son, Christian's brother, is also in this draft. Luke, a wide receiver. And then Jerry Rice's son, who is not fast, he from USC will also be like a probably 4th rounder or so. All right, here's always my favorite part of these shows on these topics. Brev, I want a prediction. Toss out what you would do. What will the Vikings do at running back, if anything?
I think for what the roster they have now, Kwesi being the money ball guy he is, I think the running back roster is going to look different, just because, like you said, there's a pretty large quantity of very middling running backs on this roster right now. So Madison will still be here. Chandler's still going to be here. I don't think that'll change. I can see any mixture of the guys behind them going away. That's maybe except for Akers, but I don't think they're going to make any splashes. I think we all agree they're not going to go up to the Saquons of the world, but I think they might, not like round 7 like they did Dwayne McBride last year, who I was very excited for, and I'm really mad didn't work out, or hasn't to this point at least yet. But it kind of sucks with that 3rd round pick, because if you want one of these good running backs, you're going to have to love them and take with that 2nd round pick, unless Kwesi wants to trade down. But I don't think they're going to do anything super splashy. I think they'll take a running back in the 2nd or the 4th round and try to run it back for the most part again, which we said what I predict. We said what I don't want to happen. We didn't say what I want to happen, but that's what I think they'll probably do.
Yeah, I go back and forth pretty much every day on what I predict they'll do on Kirk Cousins. Today, here, I think they'll probably find a way to re-sign him for 2 years, draft JJ McCarthy to chill for 2 years, and then use their 2nd rounder on who they think is the best running back. That could be Blake Corum if he doesn't go to Harbaugh's Chargers, Jonathan Brooks. So that's where I'm at. I think that they will recognize what we're doing isn't working at running back, so we are going to draft one. He'll be cheap for 4 years, and bada bing. I don't know who the guy will be yet. But that is what I think. Tyler, take us off air with what you think the Vikings will do at running back.
Yeah, I definitely think one thing you have to consider is the TJ Hawkinson injury and the fact that he's going to miss, a portion of the beginning of the year. And assuming that the Vikings do not bring back Kirk and they have either a bridge quarterback in there, like I wouldn't be surprised if we brought back Dobbs just to be a bridge guy and, we draft someone. But if you're going that route, you need to have a better running game. And without TJ Hawkinson, people think, oh, Josh Oliver's going to get more targets and Johnny Munt's going to get more involved in the offense, maybe even Nick Muse. That could be true to an extent, but what's really going to happen is they're going to rely on the run game a lot more because there's no Hawkinson, and because you're going to have someone who isn't Kirk Cousins, at quarterback. So you have to sign someone who is at least like a mid-tier free agent for like 4 to 5 million on a 1 year or 2 year 10 million, kind of what you offered Madison just to a different player. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a situation where you have one of these older running backs, like Austin Eckler, where he's not at that Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry tier anymore. He kind of struggled last year. But what Eckler does provide is a reliable receiving threat. So if you can get him at good value, then you have another weapon that you can sort of throw the ball to, and that would be really important. And I'd imagine the Vikings would consider doing that with the absence of a guy who takes up 7 to 10 targets a game. So I just don't think you can go the 7th round running back again. And I don't think we're necessarily going to be able to invest a 2nd or a 3rd round pick at running back with our needs at quarterback and edge rusher and interior defensive line. So that's where I'm at with this is you kind of have to invest a little bit more at the position to expect better results.
Excellent. All right. So let's see. Closing arguments, Brev. That can be anything. It can be a Super Bowl prediction, a Vikings thought that's eating at you.
No, I just really want it to be the draft.
Yeah. Well, you got, 11 weeks?
Something like that. I just love the draft. The draft is so cool. Free agency is cool too. I don't know. The offseason, maybe I'm just a Vikings fan. The offseason just rocks. I don't know.
That's why I have this board up right here. That's my investigation
board. Yeah, what
board.
is that board? Because I see it every time we record.
Oh, yeah. I think I told on my solo show, or maybe a different batch of guests. You'll watch on whether it's Netflix or whatever streaming service, detective shows, and they have a murder board. That's what this is.
So this is the murder board. Who you're going to murder at VikesNow next?
So these are all the free agents right now that the Vikings have. So there's 26 of them, and then right in the middle is the Asian guy saying Viking. And as players come and go, I'm going to tie the pieces of yarn to the Asian guy Viking meme, and it's going to look like a big investigation board. Mm-hmm.
Is that guy Andy Carlson?
No, the meme. Did he make the meme? Somebody made the meme.
I don't know the specific meme you're referencing. I just thought I'd throw in Andy Carlson in there.
I've said on some other show I said the Asian Viking meme, Asian guy Viking meme is like from the Agris, like a Japanese.
Is it the one? God, what's his
where they're
name?
like fighting for the microphone?
I'm thinking of the guy from The Masked Singer, the former doctor, where he's like in the back of the classroom and he's yelling "gay."
Is it the courtroom where like all the people are around him?
Yeah, that's the one.
The meme is like if you see some hot chick on Twitter and just like what?
Yeah, and then like a year ago it got changed to say Viking. So anytime any guy comes available, so yeah, that's on the board, and that is going to be the tie that binds for new free agents, guys who resign. And yeah, it's going to look cool when it's all done. Right now, I can't do anything with it. I can put that AJ Green the third. I'm going to put him up this weekend because he's a futures guy. But all right, gentlemen, we're rambling now, and it is time to sign off. But we'll talk again next week. Let's see, certainly this group and plus Dakota on Friday. Otherwise, more content on the way Monday. All right.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right, guys, have a good weekend. Happy Super Bowl.
Happy Super Bowl.